What older and wiser people wish they knew sooner? Imagine waking up in the morning and realizing that the life you have today is the life you once prayed for. The people you love are still there. You still have your health, your time. You still have another day to change things. But somehow, you spent years worrying about things that didn't really matter. You worried about what people thought. You worried about what the past and future. You worried about being good and successful. And somewhere along the way, you forgot to simply live. Now imagine sitting across from someone who has lived 80 or 90 years. Someone who has experienced love and heartbreak, success and failure, friendship and betrayal, birth and loss. Someone who has watched decades pass by. And you ask them, if you could go back and give your youngest self some advice, what would you say? Their answers might surprise you, because when people get older, their definition of a good life often changes. The things they once chased don't seem so important anymore, and the things they once ignored become everything. So listen carefully, because these aren't just lessons about getting older. They're lessons about how to live before it's too late. You have more time than you think, but less than you imagine. A year feels like forever. 10 years feels impossible to imagine. You think I'll do it someday and travel. I'll call them later. I'll spend more time with my family when I have more time. I'll start when I'm ready. But then something happens. You blink, and 10 years are gone. The child you remember holding is suddenly an adult. Your parents look older. Friends have moved away. People you once spoke to every day are now memories. And you realize something painful. You were never guaranteed as much time as you thought. That's why older people often say, don't keep postponing your life. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment may never come. Start with what you have. Use the time you've been given. Because one day, you will wish you could have just one ordinary Tuesday back. Not because something extraordinary happened that day, but because you didn't realize how precious it was. Stop caring so much about what other people think. When you're young, other people's opinions can feel like they control your entire life. You want people to like you. You want to fit in. You want to look successful. You want people to approve your choices. And sometimes you build your entire life around an audience that doesn't even paying attention. Think about that. You're worrying about what someone might say, while they're probably worrying about what someone else thinks about them. And eventually, older people often reach a beautiful realization. You don't have to impress everyone. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to prove your worth. Live your life, make mistakes, and learn. And if someone doesn't understand your journey, it's all good. They don't have to, because at the end of your life, you won't be lying in bed thinking, I wish more people had approved of me. You'll be thinking about the people you loved, the moments you experienced, the risks you took, the memories you created. So don't spend your life performing for an audience. Live. Take care of your health. Take care of your body before it forces you to. When you are young, your body feels almost indestructible. You can stay up late. You can eat whatever you want. You can work endlessly. You can ignore sleep. And you assume you'll always feel the same. But eventually your body starts reminding you, you're not invincible. That's why one of the greatest investments you can make isn't money. It's your health. So look after yourself. Don't wait until you are forced to appreciate your body. Because there are many things money can buy, but it cannot buy back yesterday's health. The people you love are more important than you think. This is one of the hardest lessons, because when you're busy building a life, you can accidentally forget the people who helped make that life meaningful. You get busy with work, busy with responsibilities, busy chasing the next goal. And you tell yourself, I'll see them tomorrow. I'll spend more time with them when things settle down. But life doesn't always wait for you to become less busy. Sometimes people live. Sometimes relationships change. Sometimes someone you thought would always be there is suddenly gone. And that's when you realize the people you love were never interruptions to your life. They were your life. So call your parents. Check on your friends. Hug the people you love. Tell them you appreciate them. Don't assume they know. Say it, because one day, you may desperately want to say it. Some people are only meant to be in your life for a season. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people come into your life to teach you something. Some come to help you. Some come to challenge you. And some come into your life simply to show you don't want anymore. That's okay. As you grow older, you begin to understand that holding onto the wrong people can cost you your peace. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to get revenge. You don't have to prove anything. Sometimes you simply have to let go, wish them well, and continue walking. Because peace is sometimes found by fixing a relationship, but by accepting that it has ended. Money matters, but it isn't everything. Money can make life easier. Financial security matters. Working hard matters. Planning for the future matters. But money has a limit. You can buy a bigger house, but not a longer life. You can buy an expensive bed, but not better sleep. You can buy medicine, but not yesterday's health. You can buy a beautiful dinner, but not the person you shared it with after they've gone. Eventually, many people realize that the richest moments weren't necessarily the expensive ones. It was sitting around the table, laughing with friends, watching your children grow, taking a walk, going somewhere with someone you love, having a quiet morning. Those moments cost almost nothing, yet they can become priceless memories. Don't be afraid of failure. Failure feels enormous. When you are young, you fail an exam, lose a job, end a relationship, make a terrible decision, and you think, my life is over. But years later, you look back and realize that some of your greatest lessons came from the things that didn't work. Failure taught you, heartbreak taught you, rejection taught you, mistakes taught you. Sometimes the door that closes is the door that forces you toward a better path. So if you are struggling right now, don't assume that this is the end. It might simply be a chapter, and chapters change. Don't compare your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. This is especially important today. You open your phone, and everyone seems successful. Someone bought a house, someone got married, someone started a business, someone is traveling the world, someone looks happy, and suddenly you feel behind. But you are comparing your private life to someone else's public highlights. You don't know their struggles. You don't know their failures. You don't know what happens when the camera turns off. Your life has its own timeline. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're simply on a different road. Keep walking. Your journey doesn't need to look like anyone else's. Protect your peace. When you are younger, you may want to win every argument. You want to prove you're right. You want the last word. But as you get older, you begin to realize how exhausting that is. Not every argument deserves your energy. Not every insult requires a response. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Sometimes the strongest thing that you can say is nothing. Sometimes walking away is more powerful than winning, because peace becomes more valuable than being right, and your energy is limited. Spend it wisely. Forgive yourself. Perhaps this is the lesson people don't talk about enough. You will make mistakes. You will choose the wrong person. You will trust someone who didn't deserve it. You will waste time. You will make decisions you regret. You will look back at certain moments and think, why did I do that? But you were learning. You were growing. You were trying to survive with the knowledge you had at that time. Don't spend the rest of your life punishing yourself for not knowing what you know today. Learn from your past, but don't live there. You cannot change the beginning of your story, but you can still change the ending. Appreciate ordinary days. Here's something strange about life. We spend so much time waiting for special moments that we don't realize ordinary moments are becoming our memories. One day, you may miss the sound of your family in the house. You may miss driving to work. You may miss the conversations you once found boring. You may miss the person who used to call you every morning. You may even miss the ordinary problems you complained about. Because life changes, people change, you change, and suddenly, something that once felt ordinary becomes something you would give anything to experience again. So look around right now. There may be something in your life that you will be one day miss terribly, and you don't even know it yet. Say what you feel while you still can. If you love someone, tell them. If you are grateful, say thank you. If you made a mistake, apologize. If someone helps you, let them know. Pride can make us silent. Fear can make us silent. And sometimes, we assume there will always be another opportunity. But life doesn't make that promise. So don't leave important words unsaid. You don't need a perfect life. Maybe you've spent years thinking that happiness is somewhere ahead. When you get a job, when you make more money, when you meet the right person, when you buy the house, when you retire, when everything finally becomes easier. But what if happiness isn't a destination? What if it's something you practice along the way? Maybe a good life isn't a perfect life. Maybe it's a life where you learn to appreciate what you have while continuing to grow. a peaceful morning, good health, someone who loves you, a safe place to sleep, food on the table, the ability to wake up tomorrow and try again. These things can seem ordinary until they're not. One day, you'll understand how fast it all went. This may be the hardest lesson of all. One day you will look back and you will wonder, where did all those years go? The birthdays, the conversations, the people, the laughter, all of it becomes part of your story. And maybe you'll realize you spent too much time worrying about things that never happened. You spent too much energy trying to impress people who didn't matter. You spent too much time chasing things you didn't really need. And you wish you could go back, not to become richer, not to become more successful, but simply to appreciate what you already had. And that is why you shouldn't wait until you're older to understand these lessons. You can choose differently today. So if you could sit down with your older self, what would they tell you? Maybe they would tell you, slow down. You don't have to figure everything out today. Call your family. Take care of your health. Stop comparing yourself. Don't chase everyone's approval. Let go of people who constantly hurt your peace. Forgive yourself. Take more chances. Travel when you can. Laugh more. Love deeply. And don't spend your entire life waiting for tomorrow. Because here's the truth. You are living through days right now that you will never get back. This morning will never happen again. This conversation will never happen again. This version of you will never exist again. And maybe that's sad, but maybe it's also beautiful. Because it means today matters. This moment matters. The people sitting beside you matter. The life you are living right now matters. So don't wait until you're 80 years old to realize that you were already living the life you were supposed to appreciate. Don't wait until someone is gone to realize how much they meant to you. Don't wait until your health changes to appreciate your body. Don't wait until you're old to start living. Because someday, you will look back at today and you'll realize you were younger than you thought. You had more time than you realize. You were stronger than you believe. And you had more beautiful moments than you noticed. So look around. Take a deep breath. Put the phone down for a moment. Look at the people you love. Appreciate where you are. And if your life isn't where you want it to be, that's okay. You still have time. You can start again. You can change direction. You can become someone you are proud of. Because the story isn't finished. And maybe the greatest lesson older and wiser people can give us is this. Don't spend your whole life preparing to live. Love people. Make memories. Take care of yourself. Stay humble. Protect your peace and appreciate the little things. Because one day, the little things will be the big things you remember. And when that day comes, I hope you can look back at your life not wishing you had lived someone else's life, but grateful that you had the courage to live your own. Because you only get one life, and you don't get to live it twice. So don't wait for tomorrow to appreciate today. Today is already part of the life you already miss. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.